pro-life bills are percolating through Congress. The U.S. House passed one bill to prevent White House discrimination against states that help needy families through pregnancy support centers. Another insists colleges rely more on resources, less on abortion to solve student pregnancies. And Senate legislation from Tennessee's Marsha Blackburn establishes standards of care for abortion similar to other medical procedures. Under the Women's Right to Know Act, women would be informed of abortion's risks and the child's gestational age and development. Montana is the latest state to reject language in state initiatives that seek unlimited abortion. At least 2 other states are challenging abortion proponents' use of poor legal thinking or language confusing to voters in the initiative process. This is Life News Radio. The View, the accurate view of the human person, changes everything. The news you hear and see pertaining to the human person has the power to inform or misinform your opinions and what you do with the gift of life and what you allow your government to do. It's why we at this station offer news on the life issue. We hope you will carefully assess what you hear, read, and view. This is Life News Radio. A big rally in the battleground state of Virginia Tuesday will make the president part of Vice President Kamala Harris's national tour promoting abortion. Not only does the rally follow Friday's D.C. March for Life, it comes just 1 week after 2 polls show 2/3 of Americans wishing for limits to abortion. The latest poll, a Knights of Columbus effort, also shows even stronger support for pregnancy support centers and medical conscience rights. For pro-life headlines delivered to your email address daily, sign up at lifenews.com. This has been Life News Radio.
The Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network presents Saints and Seasons. On January 22nd, we celebrate the feast of St. Vincent the Deacon, Martyr. Vincent was born in Spain in the 3rd century. He became a deacon under Bishop St. Valerius of Saragossa and was serving in that role when he and his bishop were apprehended soon after the start of the infamous Diocletian persecution. The Roman governor held them in prison for some time before banishing St. Valerius, and then set about trying to break Vincent. The holy deacon was stretched on the rack and his flesh torn gruesomely with hooks. But Vincent was an image of peace and calm, strengthened by heavenly endurance. He was then placed on a barbed gridiron and horribly burned, but the deacon was unmoved by the pain and only increased in joy and fortitude. The frustrated governor ordered Vincent thrown back into prison, where he was comforted by angels to the point of standing upright to praise God. The jailer, shocked at the sight, was converted on the spot, and the governor, now at his wit's end, allowed Vincent's fellow Christians to tend to the deacon. As soon as they placed him on a comfortable bed, however, he happily expired. His body, thrown first into a marsh, was defended from beasts by a raven, and then miraculously recovered after being cast into the sea. Vincent is a patron of winemakers and cellars, deacons, and sailors. Also honored on this day are St. Anastasius the Persian, St. Gaudentius, St. Vincent Pallotti, and many other martyrs, confessors, and holy virgins. For more about the saints and seasons of the Catholic Church, visit thestationofthecross.com/saints and seasons.
The Catholic Current, bringing Christ to the world and the world to Christ.
You are worth my time. You're worth my undivided attention. God is blessing us by putting us together.
It's funny because people talk about quality time, and honestly, I think it's more about quantity time. But if you're actually engaged with them, whatever it is you're doing, you're spending quality and quantity time with them.
The Catholic Current, 5 p.m. Eastern, from the Station of the Cross and on the iCatholic Radio mobile app.
Hi, Joe McLean here, host of A Catholic Take, heard on the Station of the Cross each weekday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern. A bold synthesis of information and inspiration, keeping you up to date on the news and issues that you may have missed from a courageous Catholic perspective. That's A Catholic Take, weekday morning, 7 a.m. right here on the Station of the Cross and the free iCatholic Radio mobile app. Download it today. God love you.
This is Joe McLean, and you're listening to the Station of the Cross, proclaiming the fullness of the truth with clarity and charity.
Heard around the world on your Android and Apple mobile devices.
Go into the world and tell every man that you meet, there is a man on the cross.
A Catholic Take,
What you need to know right now. A bold synthesis of inspiration and information. Keeping you up to date on the news and issues from a courageous Catholic perspective.
A Catholic Take with Joe McLean starts now.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean, and it's great to be on with you. Good morning, praise be to God. Hey, good news, bad news. Good news is Jake's back in the hot seat, so hopefully we'll have, slightly less production problems than we've had last week. But nonetheless, we're so grateful to James for pitching in while Jake was out, and we'll be catching up with producer Jake at this hour. Praise be to God. But is conservatism dead? Is conservatism dead? That's what I wanted to ask. Do you think conservatism, I can't even say the word, is it dead? I mean, Ron DeSantis has now stepped out of the race. We're going to be covering that story. Nikki Haley, does she conserve anything? I'm just curious. Asking for a friend. That's all. But does Donald Trump also conserve anything, really? We're going to talk about that with Margaret Olohan from the Daily Signal coming up at 30 past the hour. Very excited to have her on the team. She's going to cover that. Plus, I think I'm going to ask her some questions about the March for Life in D.C. Last week. Were you there? Love to know. But also on the program at 14 past the hour, Timothy Flanders from 1 Peter 5 has an article out listing 13 things Pope Francis has done good. 13 good things to say about the pontificate of Pope Francis. I want to cover that with you. And can you guess what be what he considers the greatest of the things coming out of the Francis pontificate? I'm going to cover all of that with you and get your take. I'd love to know what you think about that. You can always do that by commenting live on the video feed over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. You can find the live video feed linked up there. And you can also get the links to where we comment. Just right underneath. Just click on one of those icons and you can start commenting away. Of course, if you're on the inside, then you get access to the Telegram group, which you can find, again, at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. Join the inside. We'd love to have you there. Let's pray. Let's begin. So much to cover today. Feel free to comment. Let us know what you think. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And now your saint of the day.
Saint Vincent the Deacon, pray for us. Vincent was born in Spain in the 3rd century. He became a deacon under Bishop St. Valerius of Saragossa, and was serving in that role when he and his bishop were apprehended soon after the start of the infamous Diocletian persecution. The Roman governor held him in prison for some time before banishing St. Valerius, and then set about trying to break St. Vincent. The holy deacon was stretched on the rack and his flesh torn gruesomely with hooks, but Vincent was an image of peace and calm, strengthened by heavenly endurance. He was then placed on a barbed gridiron and horribly burned, but the deacon was unmoved by the pain and only increased in joy and fortitude. The frustrated governor ordered Vincent thrown back into prison, where he was comforted by angels to the point of standing upright to praise God. The jailer, shocked at the sight, was converted on the spot, and the governor, now at his wit's end, allowed Vincent's fellow Christians to tend to the deacon. As soon as they placed him on a comfortable bed, however, he happily expired. His body, thrown first into a marsh by the authorities, was defended from beasts by a raven, and then miraculously recovered by Christians after it was cast into the sea. Vincent is a patron of winemakers and cellars, deacons and sailors, and is regarded as the proto-martyr of Spain. Saint Vincent the Deacon, pray for us.
And now your headline news. The New York Post reports Biden finally admits border isn't secure, believes massive changes are needed. Hey, welcome to the party. During his speech, the 81-year-old Biden said he hoped for Senate negotiators to announce a compromise next week on a border policy as a part of a broader $106 billion supplemental spending bill request that would also finance military aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Yes, of course it does. Anyway, he goes on to say, quote, I believe we need significant policy changes at the border, including changes in our asylum system to ensure that we have the authorities that we need to control the border. I'm ready to act, close quote, the president said. However, current administration policy allows nearly all migrants who illegally cross the border to enter the U.S. to await backlogged asylum proceedings, entitling them to work permits after initially waiting a short period. College U.S., what if we spent all $106 billion on border security? What would happen then? Just asking for a friend. Hey, The Blaze reports Alec Baldwin is being charged with involuntary manslaughter after initial charges were dropped over the movie set shooting. A grand jury indicted Alec Baldwin after previous charges were dropped back in April. The gunshot wounded and killed Helena Hutchins, a 42-year-old cinematographer who was working on the movie set in Santa Fe, New Mexico back in 2021. Director Joel Souza was also wounded, but only superficially. Investigators said in October of 21 that a crew member had told them that he failed to check all of the rounds in the gun before it was handed to the actor to rehearse the scene. Prosecutors said they have received a new analysis of the gun stating that the trigger must have been pulled or depressed to fire the weapon, which contradicts Baldwin's claim. And Ground News reports North Carolina school ditches bathroom mirrors to prevent students from recording TikTok videos during class. Southern Middle School in North Carolina removed mirrors from bathrooms after students were using them during their bathroom breaks to produce TikTok videos, causing distractions. The school also implemented a digital hall pass system to track students and minimize disruptions. TikTok now has over 1 billion monthly active users. 32.5% of American users are aged 10 through 19. Those are your headline news. And the gospel today comes to us from Mark chapter 3, verses 22 through 30. The scribes who had come from Jerusalem said of Jesus, "He is possessed by Beelzebul, and by the prince of demons he drives out demons." Summoning them, he began to speak to them in parables. "How can Satan drive out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. And if Satan has risen up against himself and is divided, he cannot stand. That is the end of him. But no one can enter a strong man's house to plunder his property unless he first ties up that strong man. Then he can plunder his house. Amen, I say to you, all sins and blasphemies that people utter will be forgiven them. But whoever blasphemes against the Holy Ghost will never have forgiveness, but is guilty of an everlasting sin. For they had said, he has an unclean spirit." The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Theophilus, an 11th century archbishop, said, "The meaning of the example is this. The devil is the strong man. His goods are the men into whom he is received. Unless, therefore, a man first conquers the devil, how can he deprive him of his goods, that is, of the men whom he has possessed? So also I who spoil his goods, that is, free men from suffering by his possession, first spoil the devils and vanquish them, and am their enemy. How then can ye say that I have Beelzebub, and that being the friend of the devils, I cast them out?" So it's very clear that the Lord has come to pave the way to free us from the tyranny of the demons. And we are the possessions, the prized possessions of said demons. The Venerable Bede, Saint Bede, he's a priest and a monk from the 8th century. He would say, "The Lord has also bound the strong man, that is the devil, which means he has restrained him from seducing the elect and entering into his house, the world. He has spoiled his house and his goods, that is men, because he has snatched them from the snares of the devil and has united them his church. Or he has spoiled his house because the four parts of the world over which the old enemy had sway, he has distributed to the apostles and their successors that they may convert the people the way of life. You know what I find fascinating about that? Because, I covered this in my documentary film, The Secret of the Saints in the End Times. I showed the parallels between the prophecies of Daniel 2, Daniel 9, for instance, Daniel 12. And you can see the same parallels in the very last letter that St. Peter wrote before he was martyred for the faith. You can also see the remnants of that very same parallel in the very last letter that St. Paul also wrote in his, before he was martyred for the faith, both of them being martyred on the same day in 67 AD. You see this prophecy in Daniel that the kingdom will be taken away and given over to the saints. Rome was very specifically that, but I think it's being hinted at here in Venerable Bede's commentary, taken from the devils more importantly, and given over to the saints. But the flip side of that same coin, something I also talk about with the expert in our film, which is Joshua Charles, is at the very flip side. The other prophecy in Daniel is at the end times, the saints will fail to defend truth itself and teach that truth and hold that up. And then guess what happens? Those demons, those devils, the world comes back in a mad rush to take back what they once owned. Let that sink in. We'll be right back.
Ask a Priest Live, weekdays at 6 p.m. Eastern on the Station of the Cross. We'll bring you a different priest each weekday where you can participate in a live Q&A on the topics that matter. To get your question in for Father, call 1-877-511-5483 while the show is live. Email us anytime at priests@thestationofthecross.com or visit our show page at thestationofthecross.com/askapriest.
Here at the Station of the Cross, we proudly bring the truths of the Catholic faith to countless listeners through radio and mobile devices, and we're grateful for the feedback we've received.
Catholic radio has just been a lifesaver for me. I start my day with it. I listen to it all day long as much as I can. There's always people calling in with people who've lost children, and I love everyone has to say and the advice of the Catholic Church and how to deal with suffering. It has given me the strength to get through the day and to get out of bed each morning. I am very grateful for it.
Catholic radio to me has been very informative on my religion. It has informed me of many things that I wasn't aware of or should have been aware of, and I've enjoyed it very much listening to it.
If you've been blessed by listening to the Station of the Cross, let us know. Call 1-877-888-6279, extension 112. Then share your testimonial with us.
We hear all the time from listeners who discovered the station by seeing a Try God bumper magnet in traffic. You can request a free bumper magnet and start evangelizing just by driving around town. Go to thestationofthecross.com and click on promotional material under the About tab. There you can request a magnet for your listening area. We even have one for the iCatholic Radio mobile app. Request yours today.
Be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Hey, Buffalo weather last week was not great. Okay. It was not great at all. And apparently neither was the Bills-Kansas City Chiefs game because, sadly, I think they lost. Poor producer Jake. Jake, how you feeling, buddy? Was it the fact that the Bills lost that made you feel so bad? Or, do you how are you feeling right now, Jake?
Well, like I said this morning, I'd say good enough for government work, but if I worked for the government, I probably wouldn't be in still. So,
my deepest condolences to the Buffalo Bills for losing.
It's par for the course. We're used to it at this point. Heartbreaking missed field goals. That's just part of Buffalo life. It's like the snow. You get 5 feet of snow in less than 5 days. That happens. It's just
it does. It happens. Can anything good come out of Kansas City? That's the next question. I'm not so sure. But nonetheless, hey, Speaking of good things coming up, Margaret Olohan is going to be coming up. She is a senior reporter with the Daily Signal. She covers a lot of the headlines. We're going to be talking about the death of conservatism in the West. It seems like it's dead to me. Transgender ideologies that are basically, I mean, that's just on the Republican platforms, not even on the Democrat ones. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just what's left. I don't know, but we're going to ask her that. Plus, she attended the March for Life in Washington, D.C. We'll get her take on that coming up at 30 past the hour. Do join us if you can. But here is an article that I found really incredible out of 1 Peter 5. Timothy Flanders. I've interviewed Timothy in my past. He's hard to get because of the schedule. A great guy, by the way. And he's got a series of articles over at 1peter5.com. We're going to be linking to them. You'll be able to find the show notes at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. Producer Jake will put those up at the top of the hour. But this article is called 13 Good Things Pope Francis Has Done. 13. He came up with 13 things. This is coming to us after the articles in this series, titles like The Third Pornocracy, The Current Crisis in the Church, Pornocracy and the Coming Reign of Antichrist, Good Out of Evil, Papal Corruption, and Pope Francis, Worst Pope in History. The current article is in the same series of those. Again, we'll link to them in the show notes. 13 good things Pope Francis has done. And you won't guess what he considers to be the best of the good things out of this current pontificate. Want to get your take on that? Please do feel free to comment. And again, find the ways to comment on the homepage there, thestationofthecross.com/ACT. Just under the live video player, you'll see the icons and whatnot. All right, so I'm going to go through these. I'm going to go through them rather quickly. You can read the details of them for sure. Coming in at number 1, and I don't know, because the best is being saved for last. Let me just say it that way. The best is definitely being saved for last. Coming in at number 1 on the list, more Marian feast days. So this is good. The first good thing he says that Pope Francis has done is institute the feast of Mary, Mother of the Church, on the Monday of the Pentecost octave. This helps to restore something of the Pentecost octave, just as St. John Paul II restored the Pentecost vigil suppressed by Pius XII. Very interesting, isn't it? He says, but the spirituality of Our Lady as Mother of the Church has far-reaching implications at a time when the Church is in crisis. Yea and amen. More Marian feast days. Okay, I'm all for it. How about a little co-redemptrix? Anyone? I'm up for it. Maybe we can put in a good word. Coming in at number 2, the year of St. Joseph. You guys remember the year of St. Joseph? Raise your hand if you did the consecration to St. Joseph. Our family did. We went through the book, of course, and this Father Calloway's book. Did you guys go through Father Calloway's book? I've interviewed Father Calloway on a number of occasions. It's been a while since I've had him on. Maybe I can reach out to him again. But he sort of abandoned all social media, so I'm not sure if he'll be back. But we went through that, and that was a good year. I was glad for that year. And that is listed as the number 2 good thing out of the current pontificate was a year of St. Joseph. Number 3, strong rhetoric against child murder. Yeah, I'm up for this. I like this. I'm thinking this is a good thing. He says, for the rhetoric of the Holy Father has been strong against child murder, likening it to, quote, hiring a hitman to solve a problem, close quote. This is very powerful imagery and truly condemns child murder with the utmost severity, as is fitting. In Laudato Si, Timothy says, he also numbers the unborn among the poor and vulnerable humans that should be protected, cutting against the Marxist abuse of the poor for child murder as well. He goes on to say, Timothy does, it is true that Pope Francis has undermined this stand with other statements or by his relation to those whose practice or promote this evil, but this does not negate the positive effects of this fitting rhetoric. Yeah, so it's kind of talk out of both sides of your mouth a little bit, strong condemnation of abortion, and yet happy to hang out with Jeffrey Sachs, for example, or send letters to Herr Schwab at the World Economic Forum, or Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, and many, many others. So very kind of like, what? But I am glad he has spoken out in that regard. Now, coming in at number 4 on the list, the reorientation of the papacy on behalf of the poor. Okay. He says, but even if the Pope is promoting the poor as a show of piety, nevertheless, he is helping the poor. These are good optics for the world to see what the church stands for, and this always commands respect. Even if the church is judged by her enemies on purely secular grounds, the Roman Catholic Church is the greatest humanitarian organization in history and at the present world. Thus, there is a great good for souls, even if Pope Francis is making a show of piety here. So in other words, you can't go wrong. You are, in fact, helping the poor, and this is a good thing. And let us never forget that the greatest humanitarian acts ever, thanks to the Catholic Church. Universities, soup kitchens, shelters, feeding, clothing, the naked, visiting the imprisoned. That's the Catholic Church. Just get out of our way. Give us the ball and get out of the way. That's what I say. Point number 5. The promotion of intergenerational communities, particularly with his attention to elderly populations. You know what? Grandma and Grandpa have a significant role to play in the lives of their grandchildren. Pope Francis highlighted that. All right, praise be to God. Number 6, measured critique of modernity in Laudato Si. Now, this point, he writes quite a bit on this one point here. Let me just say this. Timothy Philander says, quote, first of all, the encyclical statements on climate change are minimal and can be disputed for scientific reasons, as with any scientific claim in any papal encyclical. Second, as with strong rhetoric against child murder, this encyclical numbers unborn babies, unborn children among the poorest of the poor, made vulnerable by environmental degradation. He says, but again, these positive things about Laudato Si do not take away from the negatives. The encyclical has been used by the globalists to promote their agenda. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. Number 7, coming in at number 7, the consecration of Russia. Ooh, this is like the third rail right here. Do you believe that the consecration to Russia that Pope Francis did was effective? Was it on par? The fact that he mentions Ukraine in the same statement, does that negate it? What are your thoughts? Let us know. But point number 7 in this article by Timothy Philander says, this may prove to be the greatest thing Pope Francis did in his pontificate. According to Bishop Schneider, this was finally the consecration of Russia in the words, intention, and manner that Our Lady of Fatima requested. If this is true, which is a reasonable belief, then Pope Francis's pontificate will be remembered for helping to bring about the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary in our time. Do you believe that? Let us know. Moving on to point number 8, promoting peace in Ukraine. Throughout the awful invasion of Ukraine by Russia, Pope Francis has continually been a Pope of peace. Pope of peace. Nevertheless, as in the example about the poor above, this promotion of peace is what the Pope should be doing, which helps all sides and ultimately promotes a swift end to this awful conflict. And there's another point that follows up on there, so I'll wait for that. Point number 9, actually, I skipped point number 8. Promoting peace in Ukraine was point number 8. Point number 9, the restoration of the traditional ordination of married men in the Eastern Catholic churches in the United States. He says, due to an unfortunate conflict with the Irish bishops in the United States, Pope St. Pius X, ended up forbidding the ordination of married men in the Eastern rites in the United States. This was an abuse of power, Timothy says, by Pope Pius X. It provoked many thousands to leave the Catholic Church and join the Orthodox in the United States. Pope Francis, he says, reversed this ruling and restored the traditional rites of ordaining married men. That was point number 9. Coming in at number 10, the giving of faculties to the SSPX as a good thing that came out of this pontificate. He says Pope Francis has also given wide permissions and faculties to the SSPX, which helps to heal this division and regularize this important society of priests. This is a contradiction. This is in contradiction, of course, to his subsequent actions in Traditionis Custodes. Nevertheless, these are very positive and important, and indeed, he says. Point number 11, decrease of protection of the FSSP. Or rather, let me say that again because I said it wrong. Point number 11, decree of protection for the FSSP. That's a much better thing. He says His Holiness also issued a very strong decree of protection for the FSSP, which confirms them in their charism of preserving the ancient Roman rite for the faithful, again in contradiction to Traditionis Custodes. Point number 12, canon law against female ordination. Oof. Now, this is interesting given a story that's in the headlines today, which I'll be reading for you very shortly. Point number 12, Pope Francis also approved late sententia excommunication reserved to the Holy See for anyone who attempts to ordain a woman as well as the woman herself. This is a very severe penalty, as is strong against the overtures for female ordination, including to the diaconate, which have been tacitly promoted by the Vatican. So there's a little bit of talking out of both sides of your mouth here on this issue. On one hand, there's a step forward that we're going to share in the news today. On the other, there's this very strong condemnation. Where's it going to land? I don't know. Maybe more of the same out of this pontificate. But coming in at point number 13, out of the list of 13, but there's a bonus. The greatest is still to come. Point number 13 of the 13 good things we can say about the Pope Francis pontificate. Again, I want to get your take. I'll share some of that in the after show. Is a moderate response to the Israel-Hamas war. Now, this kind of ties into, what was that, point number 8, promoting peace in the Ukraine. You know, and that is, we get shuffled into one of two categories. You're either 100% for Ukraine or you're 100% for Vladimir Putin. You're either 100% for Israel or you're 100% for the terrorists in Gaza. Whereas we always take that middle ground where truth lies. And no, I'm sorry, Pope has actually called out errors on both sides. But what is the greatest thing that Timothy Flanders says? The greatest thing coming out of this current pontificate is the end to ultramontanism, the false spirit of Vatican I. In the future, the Francis pontificate will likely be used as an example to decree or dogmatize a clarification of Vatican I, which shows the limits of papal infallibility, condemning an excessive papalism that has obtained until now. This, I believe, will be the greatest good to come out of the evil Francis pontificate, although it might take 500 years for this to come about. So, the greatest thing, according to Timothy Flanders, is that there will be limits to the papal authority in the future. Will that be true? I don't know. We'll get your take, but more coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
At the Station of the Cross, we understand that life circumstances can affect your giving options, whether by moving or by switching banks and credit card numbers. Please let us know if recent changes have been made to your payment information so that we can better serve you as you continue to bless us with your financial support. Update your information today at thestationofthecross.com or by calling 1-877-888-6279, extension 104.
What you're offering and giving to me, you deserve to get back because you're offering more than I can give.
I learned so much through the Station on the Cross. I listen to the radio station daily, and I absolutely love it.
I was attending the chapel and places like that, and through your programs, I was able to find out how other Protestants had come back into the Catholic Church. God bless the Station of the Cross.
Donate today at thestationofthecross.com.
Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto.
The St. Thomas More House of Prayer, a Catholic retreat center, prays the Liturgy of the Hours each day, starting with the office of readings at 5:30 a.m. and ending with night prayer at 8 o'clock p.m. Nestled in a peaceful, rustic setting, it's the perfect place to converse with God and discern His will for your life. The St. Thomas More House of Prayer is open to the public and can be booked by individuals or groups for retreats. We're located at 365 Hill City Road in Cranberry, Pennsylvania. To book a visit or learn more, visit liturgyofthehours.org or call 814-676-1910. That's 814-676-1910.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain, and here are your headline news. Ground News reports 2 U.S. Navy SEALs missing off the coast of Somalia are dead, according to officials. 2 missing U.S. Navy SEALs who were attempting to board a vessel suspected of transporting Iranian components for ballistic missiles to Yemen-based Houthi rebels have been declared deceased after a 10-day search. The names of the missing SEALs have not been released, and no further information will be provided out of respect for their families. The U.S., Japan, and Spain conducted an extensive search spanning over 21,000 miles to locate them, and we are unsure as to the final result. LifeSite News reports Pope Francis institutes female lectors again at the Vatican, continuing rupture from Catholic tradition. On January the 21st, Pope Francis initiated or instituted 2 women as lectors, along with 7 women and 2 men as catechists. The individuals heralded from countries such as Jamaica, Brazil, Korea, Chad, Trinidad and Tobago, Bolivia, and Germany. The institution of women as lectors and also as acolytes is a modern novelty resulting from Pope Francis's 2021 changes to the Church's canon law, as outlined in his Motu Proprio Spiritus Domini. A subsequent motu proprio later that same year, Antiquum Ministerium, provided for the formal institution of women as catechists, resulting in the first institution of women in the roles in 2022. And the AP is reporting Ron DeSantis drops out of the 2024 presidential race, endorses Donald Trump. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis suspended his presidential campaign 2 days before the New Hampshire primary and endorsed Donald Trump, leaving Nikki Haley as the last remaining challenger for the Republican nomination. DeSantis' campaign struggled due to flawed strategy, a lack of connection with voters, and Trump's strong hold on the party's base. Major donors withdrew their support amid concerns over DeSantis' uncompromising positions. Trump holds a significant lead over Haley in the polls, and a win in New Hampshire could make his nomination all but certain, while a loss in her home state of South Carolina would likely doom Haley's campaign. And those are your headline news. Praise be to God. Mary Margaret Olohan is expected to join us at any moment now when we get her on. We're going to jump into some stories out of the headlines, especially Ron DeSantis. Do you think anything left of the Conservative Party is out there? I mean, golly gee whiz. Part of the stories is Ron DeSantis' uncompromising beliefs and policies. I mean, if you believe something is true, should you compromise on that just so you can get votes, so you can get elected? That's one question in my mind. I mean, Donald Trump compromises on the life issues. He definitely compromises on the marriage, the traditional marriage issue, 100%. Is he the best that we might have to offer? Well, that's arguable for sure, 100% in some ways. But Nikki Haley, she definitely wouldn't commit to saying that a man and a woman can only be married, that she basically was on the table for just about whatever. So what's left in conservatism in the West? I think that's the conversation I want to have with Mary Margaret. Hopefully she'll join us here, and we'll get her on from the Daily Signal. And you're welcome to chime in your thoughts and let us know what you think. Again, the chats are live and open. We'll be covering some of that in the after show, getting your take on it. But there are other stories in the news that I would love to cover for you. And, this whole female ordination is definitely one of those stories. But here's a story that you're probably not going to see, and I want to bring it up for you today. And I'll link to this in the show notes. Apostolic visitor of Medjugorje to Pope Francis. Now, this is another one of those third rail stories. I mean, I find that you're either 100% for or you're 100% against. Very few people find themselves in the middle when it comes to Medjugorje. I myself am in the middle. I do not believe in the messages or the seers that have come out of Medjugorje, but I can tell you I am profoundly awed by the many miracles and the stories of vocations, transformations, reversions, and conversions that have happened from the countless pilgrims who have gone to the site. I can separate those two things. Unfortunately, I think many people can't. But anyway, I want to read this article to you. It's very short, sweet, and I think it's very interesting, and it sort of lends itself to the conversation. Rome, the Daily Bulletin of the Vatican Press Office reports that this morning, the Vatican diplomat Monsignor Aldo Cavalli was received in audience by Pope Francis. Now, Monsignor Cavalli is named by his title and rank, but not by his current duties. The 77-year-old Monsignor Cavalli, who comes from Lombardy, completed his priestly training at the Roman Seminary and then studied at the Pontifical Lateran University. Ordained a priest in 71 for his home diocese of Bergamo, he completed his studies and began training at the Diplomatic Academy of the Holy See in 1975. I was 1 year old when he did that. He then joined the diplomatic service in 79, and in 1996, Pope John Paul II appointed him apostolic nuncio and titular archbishop of Vibo Valencia. Monsignor Cavalli served as nuncio in Chile, Colombia, Malta, and the Netherlands. When he turned 75, Pope Francis appointed him apostolic visitor for Medjugorje, specifically the parish there, in November of 2021. When Francis was enthroned, he had a very distinct relationship with Medjugorje. When he expressed dramatically in a morning sermon in Santa Marta, but in 2017, Cardinal Ernest Simoni, I guess is how you say that, his official representative at then the youth festival in Herzegovina, declared that the Pope had changed his mind about Medjugorje. In the same year, a few months earlier, Francis had appointed the Polish Archbishop Hoser as his special envoy to Medjugorje, and shortly afterward issued the motu proprio Sanctuarium in Ecclesia. This created the legal basis for converting Medjugorje, which is not mentioned by name, into an international sanctuary. In 2018, Monsignor Hauser was appointed apostolic visitor by Francis, and the parish of Medjugorje was placed directly under the supervision of the Holy See. In 2019, under Vatican control, Francis allowed dioceses and parishes to officially organize pilgrimages to Medjugorje. Since the first reports of Marian apparitions in the Herzegovinian town in the summer of 1981, pilgrimages had only been possible privately for almost 40 years. In April of 2021, Francis allowed the Pontifical Council for Promoting the New Evangelization to include Medjugorje as one of 30 representative shrines in the Papal Prayer Marathon. You know what's interesting about all of those bullet points that I just read to you, and I'll go on in a moment, is that, one thing that I realized in my understanding of Medjugorje years ago now was that prior to this moment in 2018, the only judgment upon the apparitions there has been from the local bishops. In fact, turns out that is the normal way, the normative way, the ordinary means of investigation on an apparition is through the bishop of the local diocese. It doesn't actually happen at the Vatican level. The ordinary means is the bishop investigates, the bishop makes a determination and declares it one way or the other. In the case of Medjugorje, all the local bishops that have been there basically said, no, nothing is happening here, don't come. And the local council of bishops, before the fall of the Iron Curtain, also sort of maintained that position. But there is obviously a conflict. There's obviously a debate here. So this got turned over in 2018 to the Vatican. That kind of made it very unique in many ways. And then, of course, they opened up, as it said, to pilgrimages, which led many to believe that soon the Vatican would endorse Medjugorje fully. But, of course, as we know, the visionaries, they keep receiving messages there. So you have to wait until they come to an end before you can fully investigate everything. The article goes on to say, these measures were preceded by disciplinary actions against Franciscans and seers and the retirement of the Medjugorje critic Monsignor Ratko Mostar. I'm sure I'm just obliterating this poor man's name, which were intended to normalize the Herzegovinian town. Specifically, this means the suppression of the seers and the messages. Francis put it this way in a conversation book in 2018, quote, "It annoys me when they come with the messages." This is Francis speaking. Goes on to say, quote, "The Virgin is not a post office," close quote. He also said that the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he also said that as Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he had forbidden a prayer meeting with Medjugorje seer, but it was held anyway. They knew that I did not agree with it. The novelty, however, was that Francis made it clear that he would differentiate between the messages he rejected and the miracles that nevertheless were performed in Medjugorje. And because of that one sentence in this article, I guess I could say I would add that to the list of 13 things that Timothy Flanders believes are good things that have come out of the Francis pontificate. I think I'd add that. I agree. I have to say, I agree with Pope Francis in this regard. I can compartmentalize. I can set aside the visions, the apparitions, the messages, and the seers and their activity versus those good intentions of pilgrims coming from all over the world. I can separate that. I am not sure why. I'm not sure why so many people can't separate those things. Even if you believed 100% of all the messages of all the seers, even if you believe those things, why is it you can't seem to see these things can be separated? They don't have to be connected at the hip. One does not have to lead to the other. This is something we talked about in our after show. I think it was on Friday. I shared some personal anecdotal experience that I have in regards to this story. I could do so again, of course. But one of the main aspects is just the sort of the material quality that comes from the visionaries and the seers. The material quality, like rosaries turning to gold, for instance. This is a very materialistic quality. Compare and contrast that to, say, Saint Bernadette, who spent the rest of her days living a life of poverty in a convent, accepting whatever humiliations God deemed to send her way. Sister Lucia, she didn't go on to live high on the hog, did she? She didn't command high stipends to give talks and to guarantee apparitions during those talks, did she? So there's a clear contrast with the visions and apparitions and seers and the humility and the humble circumstances that surround them as to what's going on in Medjugorje. There's a clear difference there, I think, that stands out to me and to my mind. So I find it very fascinating that the Pope Francis has basically taken the same position. He separates these two. It goes on, in fact, there is no doubt that many people in Medjugorje were touched by God and found faith and even a spiritual calling. The recognition of at least the first 7 apparitions, which seemed imminent in 2017, has not yet materialized. Neither is its establishment as an international sanctuary. The decision lies with Francis. Monsignor Cavalli took up his new position in Medjugorje in February 11th, 2022, going on a year now, succeeding the Polish Archbishop who died in the summer of 21 and was the first apostolic visitor of Medjugorje. Monsignor Hauser banned communion in the hand back in 2019. Can we get that all over the world? Praise be to God. That would be amazing. I'm all for that. Banning communion in the hand, 2009. Make communion on the tongue great again, I say. Anyway, the article goes on to say, nothing was disclosed about the content of today's conversation, since Cavalli's only assignment at the moment is that of apostolic visitor to Medjugorje. It can be concluded that the audience is related to this. In other words, the audience that they had together, he and the Pope, even if it is not presented as such. In short, Pope Francis was informed today about the situation in Medjugorje. So I find it very interesting because this happened kind of quietly, that this Monsignor, who's been given this task, has come to visit the Home Office to present something to Pope Francis in regards to Medjugorje. It's kind of mysterious, don't you think? What do they talk about? Don't you want to be a fly on the wall there? Given how much of a third rail this topic really is, no doubt, there are many people who would argue with me and tell me I'm wrong about it, and I respect your position in that regard. I'm open to the conversation, but it just boggles the mind why so many. It's an all or nothing kind of a deal. This doesn't seem to make rational sense to me, but let me know what your thoughts are. We'll cover some of that, of course, in the after show. Mary Margaret Olohan was supposed to be on. I'm sorry we missed her. We'll get her back as soon as we can. But more of A Catholic Take and your take is coming up next. Don't go anywhere.
The Station of the Cross began broadcasting in Buffalo, New York in 1999. Since then, our listening areas have multiplied and expanded into several states. While our mission is to grow the Catholic faith through radio and other media outlets, our apostolate is supportive of, but independent from your local diocese. Through your generosity, we are able to inspire countless listeners with the gospel and help lead them to a parish to be spiritually nourished by the sacraments.
Some atheistic scientists claim we don't need God to explain the universe because science is sufficient to get the job done. But is this true? The answer is no, and here's the reason. Science could never negate the need for God because it can't give an exhaustive explanation of the universe. First, it relies on the inductive method in order to validate its hypotheses. As such, scientists can never be certain they've discovered every piece of data necessary to give a complete explanation. They must always be open to discovering something new that could alter their current theory. Furthermore, science presupposes an existing universe to observe and explain. Thus, it could never explain why the universe exists in the first place rather than not. Science has explanatory power, but not enough power to negate the need for God. I'm Carlo Broussard with a ready reason for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
The Station of the Cross has many ways to keep you informed about our programming. You can view the highlights of our primetime programming schedule or the full 24/7 programming grid at both thestationofthecross.com or the free iCatholic Radio app. Just search under the Programming tab. Our website also offers a printable version for your convenience.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information. And I'm glad to be on with you. Praise be to God. And it's Monday, so I guess we have the Monday issues with guest connections and foggy brain and all the rest. But nonetheless, the show must go on. And I saw this article out of the Epoch Times. Again, I can't wait for the after show to comment directly with you about that. Vatican surrenders over blessing gay couples. African bishops at forefront of resistance to controversial Fiducia Supplicans document. Did the Vatican surrender, though, is my question in my mind. And I find it interesting when I see secular reportage of news stories. I always have sort of a skepticism on, do they truly understand what's at stake here? James Barisel is the one who's written this article. We'll link to it in the show notes for you over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. It says, just weeks after issuing a controversial document dealing with the topic of blessing homosexual couples, Fiducia Supplicans, on December the 18th, 2023, the Vatican has effectively surrendered in the face of mounting worldwide opposition. It has approved a document issued by the Symposium of Bishops Conferences of Africa and Madagascar declaring such blessings will not be given anywhere on the continent. You know, okay, right away, Africa did step up. There's no question. But so did a bunch of other bishops and priests all over the planet. I find it interesting on one hand, we're sort of only talking about the African bishops. And there's a caveat there that I pointed out last week. I'll bring it up here again in a second. But let's not forget, I mean, there was a split in Spain. Did you see all these Spanish priests are like, nope. And then a cardinal was like, you got to do it no matter what. And then another bishop was like, we're not doing it. So, I mean, this is causing major division within Holy Mother Church. Something we talked to Father Gerald Murray about last week. The video went viral on the channel. The article goes on to say the African bishops document titled No Blessings for Homosexual Couples in the African Churches. Synthesis of the responses from the African Episcopal Conference to the Declaration of Fiducia Supplicans was issued January the 11th, 2024, begins by noting that the Vatican Declaration has caused a shockwave, sown misconceptions and unrest in the minds of many lay faithful, consecrated persons, members of religious orders, and even pastors, and aroused strong reactions. I mean, have you heard it yet from your non-Catholic friends and family members, your coworkers? Like, hey, man, what in the world is your Pope doing? I mean, for crying out loud. What is your friends do talk like that, right? Or is Is that just mine? Anyway, the article goes on to say it does this to take advantage of the letter of Fiducia Supplicans in order to repudiate the Vatican's document's spirit. What Fiducia Supplicans strictly says boils down to the idea that if two people ask a blessing for what the church considers a good purpose, that is, if they were severely injured in a car crash and God is being asked to help them recover, they can receive it regardless of whether they are in a relationship of which the church disapproves. The wording is crafted to suggest an indulgent view of homosexual unions. More than that, Fiducia Supplicans was a sort of culmination of Pope Francis's efforts to put into practice a policy suggested by his ally, Cardinal Walter Kasper, at a consistory of the full College of Cardinals in February 2024, that of tolerating divisions or deviations from Catholic sexual morality in practice without approving them in theory. 8 months after Cardinal Kasper's view was rejected by his fellow cardinals at this consistory, he and the Pope attempted to have it accepted by a synod of bishops putatively focused on pastoral challenges with the family in the context of evangelization. That's one of the things I dislike about all of these documents, and even the conversation that surrounds the documents. There's a lot of gobbledygook-like language that goes on. I mean, don't you think that, in the Marine Corps, we used to have a phrase, and I'm sure everybody in the military had this phrase, KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Like you talk in the most simplified possible way. And this is one of the things I loved about Benedict XVI. After trying to read JP2's Love and Responsibility, and your mind starts to contort in ways that it wasn't designed to do, and you have to read it 10 times before it starts to make any sense whatsoever. I mean, modern encyclicals these days, it's just filled with jargon. Like, who's writing these things? It's like, did you get some intern out of the United Nations? Did you get the guy that come over from the World Health Organization or the WEF who can write this gobbledygook for press releases to come and hang out and write the Vatican? I mean, what is going on here? Just keep it as simple and as straightforward as you possibly can. The law of subsidiarity. You keep it at the lowest possible level. There's no need to complicate things. There just isn't. And here we go with documents that continue to say things that seem to allow the reader to interpret it in the way that they want to interpret it, right? This document teaches heresy. This document doesn't teach heresy. I'm not a cardinal of the church. I'm not ordained. I'm not even all that smart. How am I supposed to determine which cardinals to believe and which ones not to believe? Doesn't that strike you as odd? Doesn't that strike you as funny? The very fact that we see cardinal against cardinal under this issue, Akita, anyone, should be a red flag in the minds of all laity. We have got to stop pretending that there aren't bad problems in the church. We've got to. You just got to. This is a problem. You might argue, but Joe, come on now. Pope Francis, he has a good intention. He just wants to encounter people in sinful situations. And then, plant a seed, bless them. Okay. So does the document say when you encounter these people in these irregular unions, like say a woman who wants to marry her dog, for instance, I would argue that's an irregular union, let alone a man and a man, a woman and a woman, a man and 3 wives, a wife and 3 husbands, a man and his daughter, a sister and her brother. I mean, a divorced man and a divorced woman. There's lots of situations that are irregular unions, which aren't stipulated in the document. So Pandora's box has been opened here. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of explicit language like you can't actually say that this is a marriage. There can't be the pomp and the circumstance. That's true. But the ambiguity is such that it leaves wide the interpretation. And clearly we have seen many are interpreting this as Pandora's box, as a way to bless and endorse and agree to and embrace irregular unions of all shapes and sizes. The document becomes the weapon of ambiguity. And that is a problem. That is a clear problem. You don't have to be St. Thomas Aquinas. You don't got to be Dr. Taylor Marshall or Michael Lofton or anybody in between. You can just go, hey, there's a problem here. There's definitely a problem. So here's the question. Why doesn't the document get recanted? Why doesn't it get nullified? Why doesn't they pull this thing off the shelves and they say, you know what? Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. We're gonna take this down. Maybe we're gonna redo it. Maybe we're gonna put out a bigger encyclical. Maybe we're gonna clarify some things here, but clearly this has caused major problems, major divisions within the church. But here's the caveat that I have with the African bishops. I did bring this up with Father Gerald Murray last week. And again, I want your take on all of this. So you're going to be chiming in the after show here in just a few minutes as we stay on the live video feed. The African bishops basically said, well, for our situation, for our way of life, for our culture, for our traditions, for our situation, we could never do this. Are you insinuating then that it's not okay for your culture, but it is okay for mine? That's bizarre. That is literally bizarre. It is either right or it is wrong. It is either true or it is false. If it is okay in my culture, then it should be okay in yours. If it is not okay in yours, then it ought not to be okay in mine. Something is either true or not. This is natural law we're talking about. And as St. Paul clearly teaches in Romans 1, when it comes to irregular unions, it is natural law. And we must hold the ground for traditional marriage between a man and a woman. There must be no compromise. We shouldn't compromise in our elected officials. We shouldn't compromise in our priests or pastors or bishops. We shouldn't compromise the Vatican. And we shouldn't compromise in your own backyard and in your own house. Let there be no compromise. Let us conserve what is truly conservative. So what did you think of today's show? Let's discuss that right now in the after show. Your take on the after take. Comment, interact live with me and the team. All you need to do is search for one of our live video feeds on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, LinkedIn, and elsewhere. Simply search for the Station of the Cross, Joe McClain, or A Catholic Take. I'm looking forward to seeing you and interacting with you directly. It all starts right now. It's the after show.
And we're back. Welcome to the after show, everyone. Happy Monday.
Morning. Unfortunately, there was a miscommunication with ourselves and Mrs. Olohan. I'm sorry about that. She was expecting a phone call. I was expecting her to jump on the video. And that is where we're at. So hopefully I'll be able to reschedule her. Hey, good morning to you, T-Storm. Glad you're here. Praise be to God. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Jen, good morning to you. Trad Jack Burton, tweed in tow. Only using the tweed Kleenexes, though, by the way. Only true trads will use wool in their Kleenexes. So hopefully you're not using cotton.
100%.
That would be
100% wool Kleenex. That's
okay, good. I was really concerned you were going all modernist on us, using that cotton. No. Probably from China, too, by the way. Anyway. Mike K., good morning to you. Damon, good morning to you. Praise be to God. Yvonne, Janice, good morning to you. Mimi Sky is on the team. Good morning to you. Kathleen, thanks for hanging out with us today. Sharon is here. Anna, good morning to you. Praise be to Jesus. Good morning. How was everybody's weekend, by the way? What was that? What was the, was it Alf? Was the character that the meme you posted in the group? Was it Alf? Was it Alf?
That was Alf.
Alf, that's right, boy. You guys remember Alf? Alf, the television show from the 90s? He liked the cats. Remember that? By the way, cats. You remember the story about the cats? How they fed cats to the Jewish refugees in Rome, trying to avoid the Nazis?
I thought you were referring to the musical.
No, it was the Catholics who saved the Jews under the leadership of Pius XII, and they ran out of food, so there were a lot of stray cats. So cats were on the menu. Whatever it took to come to their fellow man who needed help under such tyranny. Let us never forget what the Catholic Church under Pius XII did to rescue so many.
I mean, you're definitely in desperate straits if you have to live off of Chinese food, but, is what it is.
Ha! Ouch! Ba-dum-bum. No, I got the wrong. Thank you.
There it is.
While you were gone, I tried to do my own thing.
I was working the music, the pot fader, and it went bad quickly. We abandoned the.
I can
the
sympathize
project.
having done that one guest hosting gig at the end of the year. Yeah. That was
It ain't
kind of
easy,
fun.
is it?
It was not easy.
Takes practice.
Yeah, that's
But
for sure.
here's the kicker though. Old school trad cat radio, not Catholic, because we go to Catholics know about old school radio. Old school radio, the best of the best, always did their own board opping. Up until about Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh didn't obviously board op for himself. He had Snerdley do that for him. But the coolest DJs going back in the day, they board op themselves. They work the buttons. They work the faders. They work the carts, the reel-to-reels. They took the calls in the middle while they put a song on, and they would take a call. They record it on the reel-to-reel, and they would edit it with a knife and tape, have it all ready to go, come back from the break. Man, I'm ashamed of myself. The greats are just rolling their eyes at me right now because I can't seem to push a button properly.
I will say, I think I could get used to it even faster if everything was physical buttons.
Sure. Like takes practice.
Having to move your mouse around and find the cursor or to find a thing to play the music bed. I think it'd be a lot easier if everything was physical buttons. So you can just know, my hand is resting on that button and then I can hit it when I'm ready. I don't have to look at it to click it,
Yeah. Hey, let's see here. 222 Sci-Fi Mike Peaches. Good morning to you. Dragonflies. Good morning to you. Praise be to God. We touched some third rails today, did we not? We did. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm going to try to go back a little bit and read some of those. But Jane, good morning to you over on the Facebooks. Don Paddock is here. Good morning to you. Let's see. What that missed kick. Your comment seems to be true. I'm stepping in the middle of commentary. What are we talking about? Oh, you guys are talking about the Bills game. For crying out loud.
I didn't want to bring it up. I'm done
Bills
with it already.
game going on in the comm box right now. It's not my fault the Bills lost, people. Good morning in Mobile, Alabama. Ooh, Mobile. I love it. Alabama is such a beautiful state. If you ever get a chance to go to Alabama, you need to go to Alabama. My family and I have enjoyed Alabama. Orange Beach, not far from Mobile, just down the road. We had a great time there. When I filmed my very first feature-length documentary, I filmed a segment at Orange Beach. It was cheaper than going to Hawaii. So there you go. You're going to have to watch the film to know exactly. Packers lost because of a missed kick, too, Robert says. Yeah, I'm sorry about it. Junior Barra, Patty, good morning to you. Mimi, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Praise be to God. Glad you. Jesus Robles, our friend. What are you doing awake, bro? You're supposed to be asleep. Man works third shift. Good morning to everybody. Robert and Aitna Murphy. Catherine, surprised puppies. Very interesting handle. Surprised puppies. Good morning to you. Asked, how many Protestants does it take to change a light bulb? I give up. I don't know. Probably a lot because they're big into modernism, so they're going to have a lot of light bulbs. Unlike Trad Jack Burton, who's only using blessed candles right now, and blessed fire logs.
100% real fireplace.
Yeah, 100% blessed fire logs.
I chopped those logs myself this morning
with an old school axe, not one of them like fiberglass handled or I'm sure there's somebody who's got probably a carbon fiber handled axe out there. Don't do it.
Exactly. I'm making up for my whole generation. I woke up early. I chopped those logs. I started that fire.
Hickory. Oh, is a trad axe made of hickory?
That's the
like
classic
oak?
handle, isn't it? Hickory handle.
Yeah. There you go. See? That's how you do it.
I mean, any hardwood will do, right?
Any hardwood will do. We ain't talking no pine here, people. Deborah, good morning to you. Colleen, good morning to you. Antonia, good morning to you. Alberto, good morning to you. Praise be to God. Glad you guys are here. KC, female Royals fan. KC, are you pretty happy right now because the Chiefs won? I'm just curious. Are you super happy? Brandon Joseph, good morning to you. 49 and Ravens. It's scripted. Do you guys think NFL is scripted? I mean, it is WWF in some ways, isn't it? Sean Farah, good morning to you. I just don't watch.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't watch sports anymore. I don't do it. Andrea, good morning to you. Praise be to God. Colin Newbold, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. I'm scrolling backwards. Jamie, good morning to you. It's a good morning. I love the Sacred Heart flag, says Antonio. Yeah, it is a nice flag, isn't it? Anthony, good morning to you. Yvonne, Janice, praise be to God. Good morning to you guys. All right, so I could scroll back and try to catch up on some of the conversations that we're having on some of these third rail subjects, but I'd love to know what you guys think. Susan Weber, KW, good morning to you. Let me know if you want to recap some of your... I did catch one thing Antonia said about the boy at Guadalupe didn't go to a convent. You know, what's interesting about Juan Diego is he spent the rest of his life living in a tiny home. Well before it became a trend on YouTube and Instagram. He was living in a tiny home attached to the little chapel that was built for Our Lady according to her instructions. And he would play tour guide and interpreter for the rest of his life there. So he did live in basic poverty and humility for the rest of his days. So, is that Juan Diego, or are you referring to somebody else? It might be you might be referring to somebody else, and I'm unaware of that story. I don't know. But Juan Diego himself, he did spend the rest of his days living pretty humbly. Surprised Puppies asked the question, how many Protestants does it take to change a light bulb? His response, or I guess it's her, I don't know. What is Surprised Puppies male, female, or neuter? You're a linguist, producer Jake. With Surprised Puppies, is it declined according to the male, female, or neuter?
I'm going to decline to answer that.
Well played. Touche,
Our
good
puppy,
sir.
when you hear the word puppies, does that imply male or female? It could be either.
Well, I don't
if it
know.
was surprised hound dogs, I'd probably guess it's a good old boy watching us. But
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, but puppies
Puppies could be
neuter.
or.
We're gonna go neuter on that then. We're gonna go gender neuter, neutral. Surprise Puppy says none. They live in eternal darkness.
Ooh.
Wow. Ouch. That leaves a sting. Surprised Puppies. Ginny says, speaking of candles, Candlemas is coming up. Yes, it is. By the way, raise your hand if you still have Christmas decorations up. When are we technically allowed to take down the Christmas tree, Jake?
Well, this year we've got an interesting question because Candlemas is February 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
Septuagesima Sunday is January 28th.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to leave your Christmas decorations up past Septuagesima Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
Past the violet vestments and the burial of the Alleluia? Or are we going, ooh, there we go. It's Halloween. Is this going to be a shortened after show today, Joe? Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Joe. Can you hear me? That's the question. He can't hear me. Oh, boy, this is fun. Well, Joe, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
My Comrex has... Jake, I don't know if you can hear me at all. But
I can hear you.
I seem to have lost Comrex connection.
I can hear you.
I can't talk. It's dead.
No, I can hear you.
This is dead.
Okay. No, it's not. It's not dead, Joe. Joe. We can hear you. Let's see if his phone might be working. Let's see. We can all hear you. You can. I know your Comrex isn't connected, but we can hear you. All right. I guess I'm taking it from here. Thank you, everyone, for joining in to agree. Aetna Murphy needs an exorcist? I don't know if that's if you're saying Joe needs to. Joe, can you hear me?
Jake.
Joe, we can hear you. We can hear you. Joe, he won't look at anything.
Testing. I can't even hear myself.
I guess, yeah, he can't hear himself either. Well, okay, well, we'll put me on the screen just so we don't have to watch Joe try and fix his equipment there. But, oh, I can hear myself.
You can hear yourself.
Joe, we can hear you, by the way. Your mic is still on. So even if you can't hear yourself and you can't hear me, you can at least keep talking.
So here's
and
the
your
situation.
camera's still on.
Yeah, it's weird what's going on here. So right now, the power went out, and I'm on battery backup. But apparently, some things are working and some things aren't working. For example,
yeah, it's a little confusing.
The highly sophisticated talkback box is not working because I can't hear, which is why I had the speaker on, which is why you can hear yourself, is because I can't hear anything out of my headphones. So that's dead. So I don't know why that is. I don't know why the lights turned off because I have everything on battery backup. So
I'm hearing beeping.
Why? Yeah, thanks. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure why some things are working and some things aren't working.
Surprise Puppies says the Protestants have invoked the dark arts to take Joe off the air.
Thanks, Surprised Puppies.
You summoned them with your joke.
You and your joke. Oh, man. Well, there you go, folks.
Well, at least we can still hear you because my voice is not in the condition it needs to be in to take over the after show.
What a day. What a day. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen.
Amen.
You're going to want to take the power. I'm talking to my son. He's got the Jackery back.
Oh,
so just so you guys know, my son is in the room and I'm talking to him.
Excellent. We got help on hand. This is very useful considering that I can't just rush over into Joe's studio and help him like I could if this were the old days and we were all in one radio studio together. I can't just run next door. We have to have help on hand there. Joe's muted. I'm going to assume that was by design?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm wondering whether or not this black talkback box now is totally wasted. I wonder if it got shocked because
it's just not coming back on or anything.
It's totally dead. Like I can't hear anything out of my headphones as a result.
Okay.
I'd have to.
It was
unplug
working
and
this
move
morning
that.
though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you guys are getting a great firsthand view of what it's like pretty much every day here, trying to keep the show on the air, which is
Solar
talking
flare,
about
someone
tech issues.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Yep.
Welcome to technology. You know, the day will come soon where we will be reprinting flyers and magazines in our basements and hidey holes with old-fashioned hand cranks and then distributing them like Saint Maximilian Kolbe did the hard way. We aren't married to the distribution. We're married to the message. The distribution can change however it wants.
Amen.
Ginger Gal, my mom says Saint Valentine takes the Christmas tree. She goes to Saint Valentine's Day. Is that what you just said?
Christmas,
just the
until
black
St.
cord,
Valentine's
right?
Day.
Yeah,
that's pretty late.
Late in the season. I finally took down the Christmas lights outside the house anyway over the weekend. Deborah, do you use Jackery? I have a Jackery 1000. I've had it now for several years. I've used it a bunch of times. It's been great. I then recently got a, what was the other one we got? The EcoFlow. I got the EcoFlow. It's a bigger unit. And I found that in the summertime, I was struggling with the Jackery. I couldn't we lost power for several days in the summertime, and with the heat, we were struggling to keep it charged up. So I got a different unit. I got the EcoFlow. Sean says he has the EcoFlow. I got
it's
one
very
refurbished.
Laudato Si of you, Joe.
Very Laudato Si. I do get it in my stretchy pants when I use the EcoFlow, and I meditate first, clear my mind before I use the EcoFlow, if that makes you feel any better. In South Africa, we have daily, what does that say?
Blackouts.
Yep. Got it.
Yeah,
Yikes.
you got those big rolling blackouts and things like that. I've heard of those.
Yikes.
Sean.
Oh, well, guess what? My talkback came back, so I can use my headphones
there you
again. It kicks what on? Yeah, it's going to pull a lot of power. But now I could turn my mic off, my headphone thing off, and you won't get a reverb there.
Oh, there we go,
folks. Back in business. So good news, it is not broken. I thought we were going to be buying ourselves a new talkback unit there.
I was a little concerned, especially considering that you couldn't hear me. Well, you could hear me at first this morning, and then we had to turn that down. So,
yeah. Yeah, it's fine. That's going to be fine. We're going to sign off here in a minute anyway. But at least we're back in business with the headphones. Move Joe to Buffalo, where everybody should live in Western New York.
Sci-Fi Mike is
Mike.
having way too much fun there.
Do we need to put Sci-Fi Mike out of the group? Does he need to be banned for some, put into timeout? Like, why would you wish Western New York on anybody, Sci-Fi Mike? I mean, that seems to lack charity.
I'm with Sci-Fi Mike. Bring everyone here, and we'll just take it over. Why don't we do what all the Californians are doing to Texas?
And what's that?
Which is moving in like locusts and taking the place over.
Right. Which means
I think we should let's just move all the Texicans up to Western New York and take New York over.
Just wait. Just like I feel like what that meme of what's his name from Braveheart, Mel Gibson in Braveheart.
Yeah.
You know, hold. Like, just wait, because enough Californians are going to come to Texas, and they're going to think, we got them, finally. And then we're all going to move to California. Poof.
There you go.
And then we'll own the place.
Yep.
And they'll be stuck with West Texas. Enjoy that. Have fun with that. We could do the same thing for Western New York, though, if you want. I'm all right with it. You know, just like let them have it, and then we'll take the more beautiful parts.
Mm-hmm.
And they can have lake effect all they want. Enjoy that. Noonie says, Joe, where can we get Station of the Cross coffee mug? That is an excellent question. Well, so this one here, my wife made me for Christmas. She took the logo and she had it printed up on some internet printing service. And she did that because she was tired of seeing my Buc-ee's mug on camera.
Without a sponsorship deal, that is.
Yeah. So the only one that we are offering is this ACT Insiders mug, highly overpriced. I'm going to be honest with you. But since we don't make them ourselves, we don't control the pricing. It is very expensive. But the good news is, the upside is...
We really could use some of these. These are nice.
We could. The upside is...
Got the 10 Commandments on the other side.
The upside is all proceeds do benefit our apostolate. So praise be to God for that. But that is linked up on the YouTube channel and on the website, stationofthecross.com/ACT. Now, I would like to actually get a better mug situation that we can control a little bit pricing-wise, but I'm not quite there yet. So we're not quite there yet.
It's probably going to involve buying stickers and having me put them on all the mugs.
I didn't want to say that out loud. But since we're trads, though, do we really do stickers?
Hand-embroidered ceramic
Thank
mugs.
you.
Because that's how
Thank
that
you.
works.
Hand-embroidered, I was thinking maybe you could carve them.
Sure.
From like 100-year-old tree stumps.
There we go.
You know, something, 150, 200-year-old tree stumps. In Western New York, you probably have 1,000 of them just right outside the door.
Mm-hmm. That's a good use. That's a good
or like
use
we
of
go,
1,000-year-old wood.
We have to go through the forests and find the trees that have those really knotty balls on the side. Those are, I'm told that's like the best of the best for wood carving.
Yes, when you carve a briar wood tobacco pipe, you want to use the burl of the what is it? Something heather. Erica something. I can forget the Latin name, but basically it's the briar wood, the burls of the
burls.
trunk. That's where the hardiest wood is, and it stands up to a lot of heat and flame. So
Catholics take back California, sci-fi says. Yes. Yes, sir. Mateus, that's Mateus's job if he's listening. Tim also thinks I should move to Buffalo. It's not that Buffalo's not nice. I like the fact that Buffalo's a small town. You know, tiny town, has a pretty decent junior college football team called the Bills. Can I throw any other digs at the Bills? I need to work on my passive aggressiveness.
Kick us while we're down.
Kick you while you're down. I like that. I wouldn't have thought of that one, but now that you brought it up, thank you. Thank you. I like the.
If the Bills tried to kick someone while they were down, they'd miss.
That was a good one. I like that. That's funny. Yikes. Well, there you go, folks. Surprise Puppy says, talking of Stations of the Cross. My dad passed in October, and I was looking through his coat pockets yesterday before donating his clothes, and I found a Stations of the Cross tiny prayer guide. Oh, wow. That's special. That's pretty amazing. That'll become a great family heirloom. Praying for the repose of your father, too, by the way. Buffalo gets 17 feet snowstorms. Yes, exactly. Herein lies the trouble with Buffalo.
It weeds out the weak.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
It weeds out the weak.
Yes.
Hey, by the way, June Ybarra, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Someone asked me, in fact, it was my wife. She wanted to know whether, do you remember when we had your sister on to talk about Cabrini?
Yes.
Did we talk about whether or not the movie was faithful to the story, to the saint herself and her real life?
We talked about it a little bit. I believe the consensus was they kind of did the Hollywood movie thing where they strip it down and streamline it, and
okay.
They kind of made it. They kind of made it normie Catholic. It's not super. That's kind of the gist I got from it.
Okay.
But I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
We're going to need someone to see that film so that I had a chance to go to a pre-screening last week, but I didn't bite on it because whoever designed that, whoever decided, hey, let's do a pre-screening in Houston. Where can we put it? Okay, we need a big theater that's in the worst part of traffic in the fourth largest city in America, where 8 to 10 million people live, and all get on the road at the same time of day. And then we're going to put the time at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Who's in charge? Who is in charge of the situation? If you needed advice, all you had to do was call me. I would have been happy to have told you how to avoid terrible traffic in the most congested, terrible traffic part of town at the worst time of day. Because, I'm not a smart man, but I can at least tell you how to not sit in traffic for 3.5 hours. So I refuse to sign up. So maybe we'll get an opportunity to see that film, and then we'll bring you some commentary on that. It'd be good. I think that would be good. When is that released? That really doesn't release till March, though.
March, I believe.
So we still got a while. Oh, let's see here. We're on total battery backup power. Was there a storm going on outside, son? Oh, it's raining. It's moist. You're saying that there's moistness in the air. So, of course, the power goes out. It's slightly moist outside. So that means that we have no power. Good times. Trad Jack Burton. T-Storm wants to know if you can explain what normie Catholic is.
Basically, it's kind of, suburban, very surface level. Just she's Catholic, the church, take care of the poor. There you go. It's not going to really delve into being, a deep
there's
spiritual.
A separation to,
yeah. There's kind of a the Catholicism is the excuse for being good to the poor, as opposed to Catholicism actually being a faith that drives her. I think that was the gist I got, is that they're kind of they're not going really deep with that, and they're making it more of a hey,
Dorothy Day?
isn't it great? Yeah, kind of that sort of thing.
Dorothy
that was
Day.
the impression. That was the impression I got. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's a little deeper than that. Remember, Angel Studios is just distributing it. They didn't actually produce it. It was made, and then Angel Studios was the only one who would distribute it at the end of the day. But and there were a lot of Catholics involved in in making it and producing it, but a lot of secular, just regular
a lot of
movie
trad
people
Catholics
too, so.
involved in the production of it, which is interesting.
So, but who knows how it falls out? Who knows who had final cut? Who knows? All.
I'm going to work on getting you an actual review of this film. Somebody who's seen it, so I'll be working on that. The Catholic Thing blog was a review of Cabrini yesterday. Said it was uncompromising in its Catholicism.
Oh,
okay. That's right. That's a good sign. That is a good sign. So we'll follow up on that one and get that going to you. Hey, Jay says, I think Scotsmen keep the nativity scene up till Lent. Up to Easter Vigil, probably. All true. Speaking of Scotsmen, my wife and I watched a movie over the weekend with, what's his name? What is his name? The Scottish actor guy. Angels Fallen. What is it? Gerard Butler? Is that his name? Gerard Butler?
Oh, he is Scottish, isn't he? Gerard Butler.
He is Scottish. And here's the interesting thing. We watched Plane over the weekend with VidAngel Phillips. Speaking of Mormons and Angel Studios, so I used the good old Mormons to apply the filters to this movie. Otherwise, I don't think I could have watched it. But the movie Plane came out in 2023. Came out last year. You guys see this movie? It's pretty good. It was pretty good. Action, adventure, thriller. He plays a good character, and spoilers are ahead. One, they let him use his actual Scottish accent. I don't think I'd ever heard him use his Scottish accent in a movie ever. So that was impressive. And number two, good little English dig joke that he throws out, so that's always nice. And then, of course, number three, his character is just him and his daughter. Like he's an airline pilot. He's getting ready to fly, contacts his daughter. He's calling his daughter. He's trying to make his way to the plane. I'm thinking, another divorced and remarried story. Turns out his character lost his wife. His wife passed. So he was a widower. And I thought, that's even better. Like they could have, why couldn't they have had I don't understand why, what difference it made in the character's life to have a wife passed. But easily they probably could have gone down the divorce route and done yet another divorced remarried story or whatever. But they didn't. So I was happy about that. And then, of course, there's another character in the film. He's supposed to be a criminal. Turns out he helps. It was really great. Liam Neeson, KW says, come on now. Liam Neeson. Liam is Irish, pro-abort. How many people use Hallow? Are you guys use Hallow? What did you think about Hallow basically defending their choice to use Liam Neeson? Even though Liam Neeson is a staunch supporter of abortion. What was your thoughts there? Let me know. I may make an exception to see movies during Lent for Cabrini. That'd be cool. Do you guys remember that it was The Passion of the Christ that came out on Ash Wednesday of 2004? And I remember asking my parish priest at the time, hey, you going to go see this? And he was like, I will not go see a film in Lent. And I was like, but it's The Passion. Don't you think you ought to support it? Maybe, just maybe, the glassware on the altar could have been a signal and a red flag to me at the time of maybe deeper problems going on. It was in one ear and out the other, though, for me in those days, unfortunately. Done with Hallow. No to Hallow, says Colin. Janice. Deborah. I used to use Hallow. I deleted the Hallow app. Andy Garcia, says Alberto. Andy Garcia? What are we talking about?
That famous Scottish actor, Andy Garcia.
Andy Garcia. I like Andy Garcia as an actor.
Sure, me too. He's good.
Oh, man. He was really good in the movie about the Cristeros. I really liked it, For Greater Glory. I really liked him in that, but who didn't love Andy Garcia in The Godfather? Like, Although that didn't receive critical acclaim, did it?
That's the one that I still haven't seen. Part 3. I've only seen bits and pieces of it, and I've never sat down and watched it the whole way through.
Really?
Yeah. I love the first 2, but I've never seen the third one.
Andy Garcia. You got to go with the Untouchables.
Yes, he's great in that. I mean, everyone's pretty great in that.
Yeah, like it's not even a question mark.
Well, there's your other Scotsman, Sean Connery. Although
Sean
he's dead
Connery,
now, rest in peace.
Sean Connery, God rest his soul. God rest his soul.
You sent one of theirs to the morgue.
The morgue. That's right. Sean Connery. God, what a hooligan Sean Connery is.
I'm giving us a few extra minutes here because of the time lost fixing the power.
The power's not fixed.
I'm still
out. I'm still out, and I still got to figure out like exactly how and why did we. I'm so bummed that our guest and I like totally, messed up there. Unfortunately, I was really looking forward to having a conversation with her based on her reportage at the Daily Signal. Tomorrow on the program, though, we are going to have Lila Miller on. She has an article over at Crisis about dirty old men. So we're going to be talking to Lila Miller. Now, she's going to be on by phone. She's not going to join by video. She's going to be on by phone for sure. So working on a couple of other angles for this week as well. Father Branchich will be back later this week. We'll be talking about how to forgive, how to love your enemies, especially when they're in your own family. Anybody else can relate to that? I don't care for Father Mike Schmitz, says Ginger Gal. Movie about the DDF, says Colin. Yes. Yes, it is. But we'll be talking about that tomorrow. Jasmine, there are other apps of equal, if not better, than Hallow at a much better price, a much lower price, if not for free. Hallow makes a hole in my pockets. I think the real trouble with Hallow is, one, as Tragic Burton would say, super normie. Mm-hmm. Number two, they're a for-profit entity. And they have investors that are not Catholic, and they are beholden to those investors to return. They have a fiduciary obligation to return, a gain, to return a value on that investment. So they are stuck doing that. So this is why they want people like Liam Neeson to be on the team, because it brings a lot of commercial value. Some of the downsides to what we do. God love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.